My name is Carolyn Rose, and I'm the president of the International Society of the Learning Sciences. And this is our first informational webinar about an upcoming bylaws vote. And the purpose of this session is to give you information about that. I'll be joined very soon from some colleagues that are also leaders in the society. But first, I'd like to give just a little bit of information about what we're doing here today. So let me go ahead and bring up a couple of slides. Okay. So first, for those viewers who are new to the society, I just want to mention you can find out more about the International Society of Learning Sciences at our website, and the URL is displayed here on the screen. And the International Society of the Learning Sciences is a professional society dedicated to the interdisciplinary empirical investigation of learning as it exists in real-world settings, and to how learning may be facilitated both with and without technology. I want to give this important caveat. The purpose of this information session is to inform the ISLS membership about the details of an important upcoming vote. The important thing to note here is that ultimately the decision will rest with the society. And so we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be informed about this upcoming vote before it occurs. So this set of webinars that we're offering, some today and some will be during the spring, will be the opportunity of the community members to voice their questions and concerns. Apart from the text of the current and proposed bylaws texts, which we will give pointers to at today's webinar, what you hear here should be taken as individuals speaking on their own behalf and not as official statements of the society as a whole. So let me give just a little bit of background on this bylaws change. We're an international and interdisciplinary society, and it's very important to the leadership of this society to reflect that balance on our board of directors, and we have worked to do so over the past several years. However, there have been challenges, and the current balance of regional representation in the society makes it difficult to achieve this with our current bylaws. And so the purpose of the change that we're proposing is to make adjustments that would enable us to do this more effectively. We want everyone to have the opportunity to be fully aware of what our current bylaws are and what change we're proposing. So I want to give information in this webinar of where you can find out more about these things. First, you can follow the URL that's given on the screen so that you can see the complete set of laws and our other society governance documents. They're all very public and available on our website. You can also read about the proposed bylaws change and its history at the link that's provided. The bylaws vote will take place online during the 2016 International Conference of the Learning Sciences, and you can find out about the conference and its schedule at the link that's provided. There's also a Google Doc where you can post questions and concerns if you're coming to this webinar after it has already completed. Or you can email me, this year's ISLS president, at the email address provided on the screen. And we would be very, very happy to hear from you. We want to know what questions and concerns there are so that we can make sure that these are all voiced and addressed before the upcoming vote. And once again, I want to stress that the purpose of doing it as a vote is because it's our style as an organization that we are very democratic, and ultimately the decision about such a change rests with the membership. Hang on one second. I am going to come back to the to not sharing the screen. I think I'm not sharing the screen now. Okay. I do not see you, Nicole. Oh, let me just check. I thought that I had sent that to you. Here. I think somehow you're. Okay, I'm resending. Okay, so while we're waiting for you, Nicole, I will let Cindy introduce herself and say a few words.
Hi, I'm Cindy Mellow Silver, immediate past president of ISLS. We started talking about this during my term as president and beyond because of concerns in having representation that was truly international. And although we requested people to take this international representation into consideration, along with other factors when voting, it seemed that after every election that the results were similar in that elections tended to be more heavily proportional and weighted towards where the largest membership was in North America. And we had numerous discussions about what solutions might be to make ISLS a truly international society that would make sure to bring in the regions that were not yet well represented. So I think that captures the history and
yes, I can hear you.
And we thought that a bylaws change was in the end one way to accomplish that would help achieve those goals.
Okay, hang on one second. I see that Nancy has joined us in the other window, and I'm just going to give her instructions for coming over here so that she'll be able to introduce herself as well. Nancy, can you hear me? Okay, great. So use that link instead. Okay, great. So Nancy Law, one of the very senior members of our society, will be coming to join us in just a moment. Thank you very much, Cindy, for that history. And now I'd like to introduce Nicole Rummel, who's our president-elect. Would you like to say a few words, Nicole?
Yes, thank you. I hope people can hear me. My name is Nicole Rummel, like Karen already said. I'm a professor in Germany at the Rural University in Bochum. And I have been... Hi, Nancy. I've been part of this society for many years now, and as Cindy was already saying, and Carolyn, we've witnessed multiple times that we had people that were very active in the membership, but that represented a smaller group of the membership, and then where they were put on the slate for candidates for the next board, they ended up not getting elected, and in some cases not getting elected multiple times, which led also to them not wanting to be that active in the society anymore. And we believe that we truly want to be a very interdisciplinary and international society that also shows the internationality and the diversity that it has in its membership and in its goals, represented in its board. So we think that it's very important that the board has a healthy diversity of various aspects with regard to seniority, place in the world where people are, gender, and various aspects. And just from our past experiences, like Cindy already said, we think that it's inevitable that we, at least for the time being, we help establishing this representation by making this bylaw change that we're proposing.
Thank you,
Maybe that's
Nicole.
enough for now. Thank you.
And now that Nancy Law has joined us, we would like to let Nancy introduce herself and also say a few words from her perspective.
Right. Well, I don't think I need to introduce myself too much because this group here, I know all of them, and you know me. So, hi.
Hi, Nancy.
Nancy, this is being broadcast, so there will be many others who will view this and could even be viewing it now who you don't see represented here. So you'll be introducing yourself to them and also voicing your views publicly. And so this is meant to be a public webinar that will be available as an information resource.
Right. So, well, I'm Nancy Law. I'm a professor at the University of Hong Kong at the Faculty of Education. And actually, I was the director for the Center for IT and Education of the university. And I have, and we have actually hosted the CSCL 2011 conference, and that was the second time that an ISLS conference was held in Asia. The first one was a CSCL 2005, and that was in Taipei. So as someone who's been, and I've actually been a member of the ISLS board for 5 years, I think, from 2008, and so I've been actually chair of the membership committee for quite a few years. So the issue of representation is clearly an important issue. When I was serving as chair of the membership committee, I was trying very hard to increase the membership from Asia or from Asia Pacific area, and also in other sort of underrepresented areas. But of course, the membership reflects also the kind of perspective or situation more broadly in terms of the field in those areas. And I still remember in one of the membership meetings during a conference, people who came to the meeting were already people who would like to be affiliated with the society. But they also asked us, in fact, I mean, back home they don't call themselves learning scientists, because that's a term that people don't really understand too much about, and so they tend to, well, either sort of they belong to different groups. Some of them would be very much instructional designer, instructional technologists, or sometimes sort of education, IT and education, or so it's a mix, especially because there was a CSCL conference. So I think one is the identity issue, but also if we look at the the different communities, of course, different community will have our own sorts of focus. Now and I like the way that Carolyn was saying that, and Nicole was saying. We want ourselves to be really interdisciplinary. Now, of course, once we expose ourselves and have a broader reach of membership, then obviously this is going to change. It could, and depending on the balance, we could have a change in the direction or priority of the society. So this is one issue that the society has to confront.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Oh, let me just. There. Hopefully there won't be an echo now. Thank you so much for sharing your views, Nancy. I think that we should have some discussion about these issues. I think it is very true that the direction that this society takes is a reflection of the priorities of those who are part of its board of directors, because the board of directors is primarily responsible for keeping the society's committees going, and then the committees are doing a lot of the legwork for the society that drives us forward, organizes our conferences, gets new people involved, and is responsible also for communication with the society, even in terms of setting up reward structures within our society. So with that, I think it's actually our intention that the direction of the society be influenced by this very important bylaws change. And I think what's behind it is the belief that in having good representation across regions and disciplines and other factors, that representation is what would drive our society forward. So yeah, so let's have some discussion about that. Would others like to pipe in and respond to what Nancy has shared?
I'm happy to say something if Cindy, I don't want to. So I agree with you, Carolyn, that and also Nancy, that making this bylaws change and then having a better way of being able to represent diversity of various kinds in our board will likely also influence or trigger changes in the society. But I mean, the other option is that there are people who are very, and I think that's wanted, and that's what it's welcomed, and that's what I really appreciate about this society, that it has been diverse. And I think that it's not a good situation if there are very active parts of the society, whether it's, say, a different discipline like computer science, or whether it's an area of the world, say Asia or Europe, or like different countries in Europe. And if those people who are who care for the society, who are willing to invest effort, and who are willing to publish in the journals, contribute as reviewers, go to the conferences, even organize conferences, if they, due to like the structure where just proportion of members, also due to like how many people and scientists in a certain field different countries have. I mean, looking at Switzerland, for instance, or Germany, those are much smaller countries than the US. They have fewer universities, they have fewer learning scientists, fewer people who even like work in this niche. And if and maybe also like within the US, there might be some disciplines that have fewer professorships, just fewer people who are interested in this particular direction of work, for instance, in computer science. And because those people are fewer in number, it always means that they're kind of feeling like they don't really have a say. I mean, they can submit papers to the conferences, but every time they come up for taking any role in the society, they just never make the bar because nobody knows them, because they're just, or at least people know them, but it's fewer people who know them. That is a problematic situation. And I think, I mean, the bylaws change does not mean that there's a quorum, like there's a quota. It's not a quota system where we say like kind of affirmative action. We need 60%, like in Germany or in Europe now, where they say we need so and so many percent in the main leadership of our industrial companies, top down kind of. But it's more like just a possibility where if we see that there's such a problem arising, we have a chance even to react to that. And that's why I'm for this change.
Thank you, Nicole. I think before we move on, now would be a really great time to segue into being more specific about what the particular bylaws changes are that we're proposing. So now I'm going to move into screen share mode once again.
Actually, can I say some discordant voices?
Well, would you be willing to wait until after I just summarize the change, and then you can be the first person who speaks after that? Okay, so what I am now showing on my screen is the page on the website where information about the bylaws change is stated. And here we have a very concise summary of what is actually being proposed. So there are two different changes that are being proposed. One of them is that there was a mechanism whereby up to 3 of the open seats for new board members on the slate can be designated for a special purpose, and there isn't in the bylaws going to be stipulated what that special purpose has to be, or that those special purpose seats need always be part of every ballot, but that the nominating committee of the society will set the priority in a particular election, just as Nicole has pointed out, to decide that some number of seats, up to 3, would be designated for a special purpose, which could include regional representation or disciplinary representation or some other designation that the society leadership has decided in a particular year is missing and needs to be more well represented. And it has always been the practice of the society in board elections that a nominating committee is formed, and that nominating committee proposes a list of candidates to be on the slate according to the very same thinking, what they see as missing on the board, and who would be great candidates to fill those slots. So that aspect of the process will not be changed. What will be changed is that the nominating committee will have a little bit more influence, that their priority that they have set will take effect. Because if they designate a seat, let's say, as a regional seat, because, let's say, we don't have enough representation from Europe on the board, then we will include in the slate candidates from Europe who we believe are excellent candidates. And when I say we, at that point it's primarily the nominating committee, but the board as a whole also has the opportunity to add members to the slate. Then that seat will go to the person who meets the criteria who gets the highest votes. So it's still by vote, but it will be that the person who has the criteria that we believe we need on in representation on the board, who gets the most votes, who will ultimately fill that slot. What that means is that if the nominating committee in a particular year decides that we need more representation from Europe, that ultimately, regardless of how the vote goes, we will be successful in achieving that goal. And we will do so in a way that reflects the priority of the community in their votes among the candidates who are options for that slot. The second change is a simple, small change for providing a mechanism to resolve a tie on the vote for president. And so this is actually not directly related to the issue of the seats or representation on the board, but it's just another issue that has come up of concern that there isn't a set policy for dealing with ties, and there's a concern that there could be a tie in the votes for president, and because it's an important role for the society, that there should be some procedure for dealing with this. So now that we have been specific about this, the change that we're proposing, what we should do is come back, and now I would like to let Nancy go ahead and share her views.
Right. Yeah, I would say yes. You are not just talking about a region. You can be talking about what kind of disciplinary area, whatever. But it's so this seems to be a very top-down way of telling members, who or what they should vote for. And I'm thinking, another possibility is, in fact, to be more open. I'm not discounting. I'm not saying that we mustn't change the bylaws, but I'm not sure that it is an extremely urgent thing to do, and I would actually prefer this to be discussed more broadly, with the membership, so that they can be aware of this, and so that we can promote, say, the fact that we need, say, more people from, we don't have any representation from what region or whatever. And so I'm thinking it would be a very good idea if we could, say, in the coming conference in Singapore, to have, say, in the we always have a meeting, with the members. Is the board meeting the members, and so to openly talk about this, and seek members' views. And I think if people are more concerned about this, and I'm also thinking, for people who are standing for the election, they could put in on the election platform more clearly why. So they can say that in the society at this point in time we don't have this, and what is their vision of being part of it. And I think that probably would be a better way.
Thank you, Nancy. So let me just respond to a couple of points that you raised. One is that we want to more broadly engage the society in their views on this particular topic. And that's exactly why we're starting these webinars now in December. And we have roughly 6 months now until the conference, where members who are now aware that we're contemplating this bylaws vote can certainly contact me to talk about it. They can also post their views and questions and concerns to the Google Doc that I have given a link to earlier in this presentation, and we will be keeping an eye on that. And so we are also open to suggestions on other ways that we can be collecting the views of the society between now and the conference. And at the conference, when we vote, and we will have this vote because as a board we have already voted to have the vote, but the society, as I have mentioned, the decision rests with them. If they vote not to go forward with this change, which is certainly a possible outcome, we will have collected from the society their views on this issue, and that will give us a better idea of how to try to move forward after the conference. So it's by no means a foregone conclusion that going forward with the vote means that we have to go forward with this change. Now, there has been substantial discussion about this issue at board retreats and among the executive committee for a number of years, and we as a leadership have discussed many different ways of trying to address this issue, and of all of the ways that we have discussed over and over and over and over again, this seemed to us to be the most reasonable path forward. Now, it is possible that it's a better way to get input from the society to wait until the conference and organize something at that time. And I think that if controversy from many members comes up during the next 6 months as we're collecting information, if as we read the pulse of the society, it seems that there's a desire among many to have such an organized event, we will definitely organize such an event at the conference before the actual vote takes place. And again, that would have the opportunity of exerting some influence over how that vote then takes place, and will better inform us as a society leadership how to move forward beyond this path that we're taking now. So from my perspective, the purpose of really wanting to go forward with this vote now is to make it more, engage the society at a broader level, because so far the discussion has largely been among the board. And I think that Nancy, as a member of who had been on the board and very active in leadership in this society for so long, feeling actually that she was surprised that this came up, is just an indication that as a board, though we're very aware of these issues and discussions that we've had in recent years, maybe we're not as aware as we could be of where the society's thinking is as a whole. However, it's difficult to organize an event even at the conference that gets sufficient representation from the society. We definitely have our open business meeting. This past conference, it was not well attended, and so the worry is that even if we did it at the conference, it would not be effective in engaging the participation of the society. So what we're hoping is that in bringing this to a decision-making point, that will motivate members to voice their opinions and concerns and to get involved on this matter. Because again, I want to emphasize that our goal as a board is to represent how the society as a whole wants to move forward on this very important issue. We're really not trying to push a particular agenda on how that takes place, but we would like to engage as many voices as possible and fully intend to listen very carefully to what people have to say and to move forward in a way that will be uniting and not divisive to the society. I think Nicole would like to speak now.
I only want to say one very brief thing in response to what you said, Nancy, adding to what Carolyn just said. So in the past 2 elections, there actually was both on the website but also in the email that went out to people asking them to vote, there was a passage of text there saying, in this year we're particularly trying to, like, we're lacking Asian members or European members, it was one time, so please, when you make your vote, we want to support this international interdisciplinary society, and therefore we would really like to encourage you to consider the candidates from those areas. And so people didn't react to it, and it's interesting that apparently even like you voted too. Like we tend to, and we all do, because we get so much text that we process every day, hundreds of emails and things. We tend to overlook things, even if they are done. So I share Carolyn's hope that even if maybe we don't get the quorum, at least we will raise awareness and hopefully some discussions, starting with those webinars, starting with the vote and like a discussion session that we may have in person at the conference. Even if it fails, at least we have made an attempt to hear from the society and to bring this more to people's awareness than apparently we're able to do by including passages of text in our election requests?
I think over the last few elections, as Nicole said, we had asked people to take that regional consideration into account. And I think we had no representatives from Asia for a bit after Nancy rotated off the board. And then in this last election, we did better there. But then we didn't have any new members elected from Europe. And I think it's just been a continuing concern that what seemed like the easy and logical fixes that were more voluntary haven't worked, just if only because people tend to vote for who they know. And as long as the membership, so we've got a little bit of a chicken and an egg problem in that we've still got the largest proportion of membership from North America. We would like to increase our membership in Europe, in Asia, in other parts of the world that have never even heard of us. And I know that was a big focus for Nancy when she was membership chair. And I think we've tried what we've thought were all the easy ways to do it, though if people have other ideas, and I think talking about that at the business meeting would be great. But I think we were at the last election, there were some very active people who did not get elected, and we did not have new members from Europe. And I think to really keep our society international, having some way of, I don't want to say manipulating that, but assuring that is really important.
So I think a question I'd like to ask Nancy, actually, just because I think it's something that should be considered as we're thinking about this issue. I know that you have worked to try to build bridges to more of the work that's going on in Asia as a region, and that you're also very actively involved in learning sciences related societies that are more regional. And so you must have a great perspective on what it is as an international society that we're missing from not having more representation there. And I wonder if you could say a few words from that perspective about what's happening in Asia that would benefit the ISLS.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think one of the things is, I think in a way, our society has been, very consciously moving, ourselves forward to internationalize. And in a way, there are, mainly I've been sort of also working through the Asia Pacific Society for Computers and Education, and also the Global Chinese Computers and Education Society, and they've been very active, in our region. But and so in a sense, there has been, I think, there is more awareness of the society, and there is, I think, there is I think generally people recognize the society to be a symbol of rigorous research, but the kind of exposure doesn't, and there is, it's not easy to have deeper engagement, and I don't know how exactly, as in terms of our kind of society, because we don't really have resources for this kind of internationalization. So I'm thinking, say there are good, say for example, I always encourage people to go to the doctoral consortium, the early careers workshop, and so on. And I think those are great venues for colleagues, you know, to be able to network with the society and to really, you know, be more engaged, you know, at that level of, you know, rigor in and, you know, position in the research. But then it's sometimes a little bit sad for me to even not see too many people, you know, participating, and there could be a lot of different reasons. So I don't know. I mean, it's an issue that I've been sort of grappling with and trying to struggle with. You know, at one point at some point we were able to, you know, during that year we were able to get some funding for people from Asia and so on. So, but it's not always easy. And so I think it's a challenge. I mean, in a way, I don't object to changing bylaws, especially, you know, when you say that usually in business meetings, people don't really turn up. And so in a way, it's a big change. I mean, to change the bylaws to me is a big change. And if people don't object, we assume they agree. I don't know. Yeah, so I won't object to it, but I'm not entirely sure how we could actually fundamentally engage more people from the underrepresented areas. We had, I mean, in the membership committee, when I was, you know, still chairing it, we were able to channel the funding that was given to the society to supporting applicants to the, I mean, to the doctoral consortium or to any of the I mean, who have papers accepted. If they have, you know, funding problems, we were trying to help them. And one year we were able to support, I think it's one doctoral student from Tunisia. So it was a positive move, but so in a sense, I still think that we should keep doing this, but I don't think that within the kind of resources that we have, we would be able to do too much.
Cindy?
Yeah, we did bring another student from India this past year, but I agree with Nancy. Those efforts are really important, but the numbers are still quite small. So I look forward to more discussion, but I think I'm out of other ideas.
Yeah, I agree. Those issues are very difficult. And in terms of trying to fund people from underrepresented regions where it would be very difficult for them to pay to come to our conferences, that it's a hard problem because ultimately whatever we do is on the financial front is going to be a drop in the bucket on in terms of enabling better representation from those regions. One hope is that if in our leadership we have good representation consistently across regions, then those leaders will be more aware of potential funding sources in their own region, and also might very creatively be able to organize efforts within their regions to make it possible for their constituencies to be represented. But also our regional representation it comes at the level of conference organization as well, where we try to rotate regions in where our conferences are held. That makes it cheaper on years where, for particular regions, if the conference is there and if more leaders in the society from these regions are actively involved, then they may be more likely to organize conferences in their region as well. And I'd like to point out that the ICLS conference this year will be in Asia. It will be in Singapore, and we do hope that that will make it easier to have more representation from Asia as a region. I know Nicole had something she wanted to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this aspect of it definitely is a very, very difficult issue, funding, particularly funding in some countries that are currently underrepresented. It's also a matter of maybe funding for research and for travel of young research in particular not being as available. However, I also think it's not only funding. From my own experience, I have to say that it also has to be with the availability of role models, because it has to do with self-esteem, self-confidence, that if I get involved in this, I will have a chance. I have even experienced here in Germany that there have been leaders in our field in Germany who had never published anything in an international conference, who had never published international papers like in international journals. And then when I said, yeah, I'm going to ARA, I'm going to ISLS, they were really like, whoa, oh, so you can actually go there, and do you think I would have a chance? And so for them, just, it didn't come natural. There was sort of a barrier of not thinking that one would have a chance and be accepted. And I do think that if a society has a leadership that represents people that are in many ways different, that this also has a modeling function for people who may say, I'm good in my country, well, maybe I could try to find funding, go elsewhere, and that's, like in my personal case, that was true for women. Women in Germany in like leading positions at universities are still very underrepresented. There are big programs trying to change that. And for me, it was easier because I was at a certain time, I was in the US when I did my master's, and I just had mentors who were female, and then I came back and I was like, sure, it's possible. Why not? And otherwise, I see that among my students, even now, they don't have the self-confidence. And therefore, I also believe in role modeling. And I think this would give us a chance to establish those role models in our leadership.
I think that's an excellent point. And I think it's interesting that, you know, from our side, we believe that we're an international society. We affirm the value of, you know, being international and working internationally, and I think that we don't always consider that it doesn't appear that way always from the other side, because we feel like, of course, we're an international society, of course we want, you know, why wouldn't we want, you know, women, why wouldn't we want people from other regions, you know, why would that even be an issue? And yet from the other side, it might not seem like the value is felt. And I think we're trying to communicate that, and in part this bylaws vote, we hope, will communicate that openness and desire for the diversity within our society. And hopefully, if it goes through, if it's affirmed by the society, that we go forward with this vote, hopefully that in making this explicit in our bylaws also, that will communicate more loudly to a diverse worldwide population that that's really what we want as a society. But I'd also like to address now one concern that Nancy raised, that perhaps we won't be successful in engaging the society in this vote, that that it's kind of a you know, if nobody objects, we just go forward with it kind of a thing. One reason why it is that the vote will take place during the conference is because that's the time during the year when we have the most of representation of the society all in one place. And it's actually stipulated that a majority of members present have to participate in the vote, I believe. And please correct me, any of you, if I'm misstating this, but I believe that in order for the vote to go through, that of the people present, a majority have to actually vote. And then of those who vote, we need to have a majority in favor in order to move forward. And the reason why we have these stipulations is because we don't want it to be too easy for an important change to take place without an awareness among the membership that this is happening and a participation in that decision making. Can any of you please pipe in if I have somehow misrepresented the process?
I'm just going to look at the bylaws now, but remembering the discussion last summer, I believe that was the case.
Yeah.
And while Cindy is checking, can I say something? I'm thinking about. I have another suggestion. I mean, I mean, I don't object to changing the bylaws, but I'm thinking that actually the conferences, as said, is a major opportunity for us to be meeting with people from the various areas. And so I'm thinking, now in the past, the membership committee has been having some kind of ambassador going to other societies, meetings, and so on. I think that's fine. But then if we think about what Nicole was talking about, that's also true in the sense that even if you go and be an ambassador, people won't think that I would be, people would be interested in my work. And so maybe in future, I mean, this year may be too late, but in future conferences, we could sort of may even be putting it into the kind of criteria for for people to, I mean, it's kind of a prioritizing bits for hosting conferences. Then people can, we will encourage people to invite local, or regional societies to, to have certain sessions or events, so that we invite people in those regions to present or to do things or have posters or whatever, so that it's a two-way traffic. So our members also understand what people in those regions are working on. Would that be a good idea?
I think that's an excellent idea, and thank you for sharing that idea. And we will certainly talk about that. We are now coming up at the end of the hour, so I will give our members present one last chance to say a few words before we close. I want to point out that there will be 2 more webinars today. The next one will take place at 1 p.m. EST, which is 7 p.m. CET, and unfortunately 2 a.m. in Nancy's time zone. But we are rotating these times around the clock in hopes that at least one of these sessions will be a good time for everybody, no matter where they are in the world. So before we close, I would just like to ask Cindy, Nicole, and Nancy, would any of you like to say a last few words?
I just want to say I want to thank you and board members for actually raising this issue and trying to do something about it. I think this is an excellent sort of effort, no matter what's the outcome.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And Nancy, I just want to affirm that I'm very happy that you have raised your concerns, and we invite anyone out there who would like to be able to voice their concerns to do so. We very much appreciate, Nancy, that you have participated actively today, and thank you so much for that. Nicole, I know that you had a hand up. I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Yeah, maybe now. Better? Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you also, Nancy, for being here and for participating and for discussing with us. And also wanted to encourage everybody out there who may be listening into this or may listen to it at a later point, please let us know. Please be part of the discussion. Please be part of the society, so that we can be representatives of the society, which is actually what we want to do. And thanks to you, Cindy and Carolyn, and bye-bye. See you soon.
Cindy, would you like to say a last few words?
Carolyn, thanks for hosting this. Nancy and Nicole, thanks for bringing your views in and for inviting me to
participate even though my term has passed.
Yeah, at 5 a.m.
Really.
Have a good day over there, and good night to you, Nancy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.